بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Oh brothers and sisters, this is inshallah the final day of Ramadan for some. As for local sighting, they're still going to go out and sight it, and if they sight the moon, it will be their final day, and after Maghrib they'll be their Eid. And as for if they don't sight it, then they're going to do it. As for global sighting, it is Saudi has seen the moon, so of course it's going to be Eid for those tomorrow. So this will be the final day of Ramadan. I was supposed to have this session yesterday, but I got busy, so please pardon me. So this will be the final session, inshallah ta'ala. Hopefully I'll try to keep it concise and within 20 minutes, hopefully. I might go a little bit over. So two things. So the first half I'm going to concentrate about Tafsir, Usul al-Tafsir a little bit. The second half would be about general advice from post-Ramadan and so on and so forth. So let's begin. And firstly, I'd like to thank MNN for giving me this opportunity. And I'd ask Allah to, for anyone that has benefited from these videos, I ask Allah to increase us and make these videos beneficial firstly. And if they are beneficial and people have benefited, please remember us in your du'as. And ask Allah to accept from us our Ramadan, right? Our fast in Ramadan, iman and ihtisaban, and that also accept for us our the whole Ramadan, all our deeds that we've done. So inshallah, I want to start because I don't want to waste too much time with regards to usul al-tafsir. Principles to understand tafsir and tafsir in general. Brothers and sisters, when we look at tafsir, we have to be careful. And the Quran itself tells us to go to the people of ilm. Remember that any field in Islam, we are not what we call as mujtahidun. We are not people of independent reason. We independently go to a text and understand ourselves. We are people that we have to go back to the specialists, the people of that specific field. And that is similar to everything, whether it's Islamic or not. Medicine, engineering, psychology, you go back to the people, the specialists. You don't independently do it yourself. No one is going to trust me to do a surgery, right? Why not? It's because I'm not qualified, right? Similarly in Islam, we go back to the people of ilm. And with that, as an introduction to what I'm about to begin, we have to realize there's many people that speak in tafsir that are not qualified to do so. They don't know the Arabic language properly, or they are independently, they're going to their own, whatever makes sense for them, and they understand the Quran like that, and that is incorrect. And some people, for example, I'll lay something down and I'll explain something. For example, some people come to tafsir and they tell you that there's three principles in understanding, their guidelines. The first, you have to look at the context. The second is you have to look at the other words in the Quran. If there's a specific word, how to understand it. You look at the other usages in the Quran to understand this specific word. And number three is we look at the sayings of the Salaf, the pious predecessors, the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the followers, and so on and so forth. And they said if the number three contradicts one or two, you get rid of number three. And now this is very faulty. Why? Because number two, if to understand a specific word, you need to understand other usages within the Quran for it. Because they say that if I'm, for example, the word ruh, if I want to understand the word ruh, I have to look at the word ruh in other usages in the Quran to understand this, as if the Quran is doing tafsir of Quran. But this is false. If there was 5 times, for example, let's say 5 times the ruh came. The first time, if I need to understand this word by these usages, by number 1, by 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I need to understand number 2 by 1, 3, 4, and 5. Number 3, and so on and so forth. If that were the case, you will not understand anything. Because in order to know number 1, you need to know these 4. But in order to know number 2, you need to know number 1 as well. So it's self-defeating, the second. So this is incorrect. Why do you need to know usage of, if you individually take an ayah and you find what the alim has said about it, why do you need to know the other usages to verify this specific one? We have something called kulliyat in tafsir, that's a different topic. But secondly, the first one is context. We have to look at something in context. Brothers and sisters, where do you know the context? Who has given you the context of this ayah? When you read an ayah, naturally you understand from your own self a context. Now the third principle was what the Salaf said. Do you think that the Salaf have said something out of context? Or they understood a context? You either understand through Arabic or your own understanding. You understand the context of a specific verse. Where do you get context? Many of times the context is not given within the Quran. It's given external to the Quran by who? The Sahaba, the Tabi'in, the Salaf. So when you say context, if you're not getting the context from the people that the Quran was revealed upon and they saw the context of it, where are you getting the context from? And so this context is coming from you. And you said that whatever the Salaf has said, they say it through a context. Technically, whatever your context is, you will say it is superior. It takes precedence over what the Salaf has said. Technically, that's what you're saying. And if you can then throw the Salaf, what they've said, the prior predecessors, if you can throw what the Sahaba have said, what the Tabi'in said, what the Tabi'in and those generations and the ulama, if you can throw what they said based on a context that you understand, then you can throw everyone away and based on the context you understand. Therefore, you have a self-interpretation of tafsir. It is basically a very subliminal way of basically understanding Quran the way you want and getting rid of the tradition, getting rid of the ulama, basically. It is a self-interpretation. So if person A understood a context, person B understood a different context, person C had a different context, they each can claim that the context that they understood is correct and the other ones are wrong. Which means every single person can come and understand the tafsir how? The way they want according to their desires. This is not how tafsir works. Rather, the correct methodology is we go back to what the Salaf and the Sahaba, the companions, what they said, what the Tabi'in said, what their students said. The Tabi'in, the Sahaba. Why? Because they had the best understanding. They knew when it was revealed. They used to see it being revealed. They had the accessibility of the Prophet ﷺ. They knew the Arabic language. Same with the Tabi'in, they were the students of these Sahaba. So their understanding is the greatest. And why do we need to confine? And when we say confine our understanding with the sayings of the Salaf, that's number one. Why? To basically make a standard. Because brothers and sisters, if we said we don't have to confine our understanding to any generation, even them, there is no correct understanding of the Quran because everyone will understand it the way they want. And if that happens, it's an open book, meaning revelation has no importance. What does Allah intend by revelation? We don't know. Everyone knows. Everyone has their individual. So this is incorrect, brothers and sisters. We need to know that we can't. I'm not saying that a new tafsir can't come, but we say whatever the Salaf have said, within that is the truth. Any new tafsir, there's a whole guidelines and how it comes about. It cannot, but one of the main ones is that it cannot contradict what the Salaf have said. It can be new, but without contradicting, if that makes sense. So then we have to realize that the Salaf and what they've said is extremely important because if we throw them out of the picture, we've opened the Quran to it. So if a Christian comes, he can understand the Quran the way he wants on the context. What if he says this is the context, a Christian? And he has proofs for that context. What are you going to say then? You're going to say, but the Salaf said this. But he said, no. You put the principle that if the Salaf go against the context, you throw the Salaf and you agree with the context. What if somebody non-Muslim, right, comes and... So we have to realize, no, we don't. This is basically a way to try to get rid of what the Salaf said and rid of the tradition. And this is not how we understand the Quran. We understand it from what the Prophet ﷺ has told us and from the tafasir, from the books of tafsir that have narrated what the Salaf have said. Barakallahu fikum. And with that, I would like to start the next topic. Brothers and sisters, it's the end of Ramadan. This might be the last day. This might be actually the last almost hour and 20, 30 minutes, whatever is left over. Don't forget Ramadan is still not over. You can still repent. The merit of Ramadan is there. You can still ask Allah for forgiveness, for be the people that have been saved from the fire. You can still read Quran and do good. So don't forget that you still have a little time is left in Ramadan. Secondly, remember to give zakatul fitr before the prayer of Eid. That's the best time. And there's a difference of opinion. Some say after the prayer of Eid till the sunset of Eid, you still give it. After that, it becomes qada, meaning you have not given it, you're sinful, but you still have to give it as qada. So remember zakatul fitr. Number 2, remember the fast of Shawwal. Remember that Ramadan, it's a month. and everything we do, you multiply it by. So they say that if you fast the 6 days of Shawwal, it's as if you have fasted the whole year. Ramadan is 1 month, you times that by 10, it means 10 months. Shawwal is 6 days, and they say that that is multiplied by 10. So every like wal hasanatu, what does it say? Wal bi ashri amthaliha. So a good deed is by basically 10 times the same amount. So 6 days of Shawwal, you times it by 10, 60, that's 2 months. So it's as if you've done Ramadan is 10 months, Shawwal. And what's the difference between Shawwal and a normal fast? Because normally a normal fast will also have its normal 10 extra reward. Shawwal's fast, if you do it, it counts as a fard reward. That's the difference. As if you have done the whole year in fard fasting, as if nafil. And the most loved actions to Allah are the fard ones, right? And nafil are extra. And brothers and sisters, another third point is that you have gotten used to some actions, habits during Ramadan. Please do not let them go. You have been able to take out time for Taraweeh. Do not let that time go. That time is there, okay? You don't have to do 20 or 8 every single night, but you can do 2. If you can do 20, you can give 1 hour, 30 minutes to 8 or 20 to Qiyam. You can give that time, and you can realize to 2 or 3 or 4 or 6 or how many ever you want. So you're capable, even if you have job. Number fourth point is that with Ramadan, you had some bad habits. Ramadan came and you were able to control those habits. That means you're capable of controlling habits. It means, imagine you had a bad habit and you're trying to get rid of it. In these 30 days, did you do that? And if you didn't, mashallah, may Allah bless you. And then this means you're capable. So don't tell yourself after Ramadan you're going to go back. You have the ability to stop whatever you have done, and you have the ability to continue this momentum from Ramadan and continue. And Shawwal is, look, before Ramadan, you do Sha'ban fasting, right? Then you do Ramadan. After Ramadan, instead of what you do is you do 6 days of Shawwal. So you've not stopped. So it's like, when you work out, you have a warm up. You're warming up in the gym first. You warm up. That's Sha'ban, right? And then after you do Ramadan, that's the actual workout. What do you do after working out? Do you just leave? No, there's a cool down period. And know that imagine Shawwal is a cool down period. So you had the warm up in Sha'ban, you had the exercise in Ramadan, now you have a cool down period, right? And then after the 6 days of Shawwal, brothers and sisters, don't forget Mondays and Thursdays and the white days, Ayyam al-Bid. As always a small consistent exercise, right? So that you don't lose that progress. So until you go back to the exercise, it's like if you're working out and you've gone progress in your workout, and then you imagine you got busy, you can't work out. It doesn't mean you leave out exercise altogether. You do something small so that you can keep that muscle active. So when you come back, you don't have to start from zero, right? So if you equate it to working out, it's a good analogy with this. So please, brothers and sisters, I advise you guys to keep this, and advise myself first, and I advise you guys. And also reading the Quran, always the people who are the best people, not those that just have information, is those that actually apply this information. So if anything that you've learned and benefited was right from what I've told you or what Sheikh Hamza before me have said, please, I urge you guys to go towards it, and I urge you guys to continue this good. And I would like to end off, inshallah, today. Again, I want it to be lighter. With saying that Eid is tomorrow, inshallah, and Eid is a day of happiness. So you might have grudges with people. You might have not talked to people for years or months. You might be angry at someone, but please, this is a day of happiness. Your kids might mess up and you're yelling at them. Please, on the day of Eid, forget everything. Make it a day that's happy, because we only have 2 of it. Don't waste them. Make this the day of the, and why do we give fitr as well? That it's a purification for the nonsense and obscene things we talked about in fasting, as well as it's tu'ma lil masakeen. It is to give food to the poor people. So it's a day of happiness, and it's a day we give money and we give food basically to the poor people. So it for them is also a day of happiness. So we should always make dua to Allah to give us happiness in the both worlds, as well as and to accept our deeds, but also be happy and act with people, greet people with goodness, make dua for people, And if you have someone that's cut off, remember that, especially if this person is close to you and is connected, like a brother, a sister, a mother, a child, a father, a parent, because we have to do silatul rahim. We have to keep the ties of kinship when we do not sever them. So this is one of the greatest deeds that you could do, is keep the ties of kinship. And what better time to do if something has been severed? What better time to bring it together than the day of Eid? Barakallahu fikum. And inshallah ta'ala, tomorrow will be Eid Salah. And I urge everyone to go to Eid Salah and pray it. And may Allah bless everyone and accept from us all our deeds. And ask Allah to accept our fasting in Ramadan, and all our prayers, all our standings, qiyams, and all our prostrations, and all our bowings, and all our supplications. And Allah give us the life to see many Ramadans, not just one. Give us the life to see many Ramadans in the future. For brothers and sisters, there's many janazas that have happened this Ramadan, and that we ask Allah that He gives us the tawfiq to witness more Ramadans. Ameen. With that, inshallah, I'd like to end, and I'd like to again thank MNN, right? It says, "Man lam yashkur nas lam yashkur Allah," right? And whoever has not thanked the people has not thanked Allah. So I'd like to thank the MNN team for giving me the opportunity to speak. And if I have said anything correct, it is from Allah, and I thank Him for that. And if I have said anything wrong, that is from me and the shaitan, and I ask Allah to forgive me for that. Barakallahu fikum. وبه التوفيق والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.